Hi, I'm Lillian McCullough, and welcome to Teen Talk. I have with me today Megan Lowe. Megan, would you mind sharing your story?
Yeah, so growing up, I did lots of dance and sports, and throughout that time, I really, I had issues with how I looked. I always perceived myself differently. And growing up with like different bullies and like just not feeling confident about myself, I developed an eating disorder. Specifically, I developed atypical anorexia, which means that it meets all of the qualifications for anorexia except being significantly below your BMI. I was really scared to tell people about it because I was worried how people would see me, and I thought this was a really good thing for myself. Like my senior year, I was struggling a lot and decided it was time that I told people about it and got help. I wasn't really into getting help at first because I was really scared about it. It's a really scary thing to ask for help. I ended up going through the summer, and then I started college in the fall of 2023. And that's where things got really bad because it was my first time away from home. I was alone by myself, and my eating disorder really took me under at that point. From there, I got really, really sick, developing health problems. I wasn't able to do all the things I enjoyed and loved so much. So then my parents took me to the doctor, and I ended up going to a residential treatment center called Renfrew. I got a lot of help there, and after I was discharged from there, I did a PHP program. I did a PHP program along with an IOP program. PHP means partial hospitalization plan, and IOP means intensive outpatient plan. I did all of those, and I finally got discharged in May of 2024, which is super exciting. But just because I'm done with treatment doesn't mean that I'm recovered.
Right.
But yeah, so that's kind of my story.
So, in the place where you went to the treatment center, you stayed there, right?
Yeah.
And what was the hardest thing about adjusting to that?
The hardest thing was being away from my family, and also just doing something that was really hard. Like at this point, I wasn't really sure if I wanted to recover. So being there was a huge turning point for me, realizing that if I wanted to live, I needed to recover.
Right. And what was something that you learned about yourself at that place?
Something I learned was that I can do hard things, which sounds super cliche and say it all the time, but when you're put in those really hard situations, it's important to remember who you are and doing lots of values work on what I believe. So truly just being able to push through and know that I can get through this.
Was there ever a point in like the place where you were at that you saw other people going through the same thing as you?
That's the one I think pretty cool thing about going to treatment is that you're going with people who are going through similar situations. So being able to see people or hear stories from people who are going through something that I'm going through made me not feel as alone. And in that moment, I realized that like why I was getting help and why it was such a good thing for me.
Right. And one of the big things that we like to talk about, which I had another person on here that did go to another treatment place, but for something different. So what would you say is the difference between the place that you went versus like the psychiatric unit of a hospital?
Yeah, so an eating disorder treatment center it can be an inpatient stay, or you can do it virtually or go for half-day programs, really whatever level of care you need at the time. Going inpatient means you live there, you have a bed, you have a roommate, but it's mainly based off of eating disorder treatment. So it's full eating disorder treatment. They also treat like anxiety, depression, things like that. But living there, the main thing you're working on is eating, weight restoration, medication management. So you're constantly working towards the goal of being able to eat more and not feel as like guilty about it and feeling really bad about yourself.
And do you still like now feel guilty sometimes? And how do you handle that?
I have a really great team I'm working with. I still see a dietitian and a therapist weekly that help me through these issues. I try to even look back at some things I did in treatment, different like books and manuals, things I've written down. It's really learning how to use your resources and learning those tools, because you learn all those tools, but the real way you can recover is by implementing them.
Right.
So just because, like I say, I implement them doesn't mean I still have bad days.
Right.
And I still struggle a lot, but it's definitely helped me a lot being able to look back at my notes and things like that to just see what I can do better, and even reaching out to people that I went to treatment with. That's been super helpful to hear their words of encouragement, or even hearing how they could be struggling in the moment too.
So why were you originally hesitant to go into treatment?
I was really hesitant because I didn't think I was sick. I thought I was fine. I thought things were great. I didn't think anyone could tell anything was going on. Specifically because, again, like I wasn't under my BMI. I wasn't, I didn't think I looked sick. So I thought I was kind of deceiving everyone. And I thought I could play it off, that everything was fine, until it got to a point where people did realize and were like, hey, like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. But then it got to a point of me having to realize myself, like, no, you're not fine. And doctors telling me, hey, you're not fine. For it kind of to sink in, because my eating disorder always told me, like, no, like, as long as you listen to me, I can get you to the spot you want to be in. And at the end of the day, I had to realize that that's not going to happen. Because my eating disorder doesn't want what's best for me. My eating disorder wants to take over me.
Right. Going into treatment, I'm sure was really rough at the beginning. What was something that helped you there in your treatment?
Something that really helped me was meeting my dietitian. Her name was M, and we immediately had such a great connection. She is like one of the sweetest people I've ever met, and she truly helped me on such a personal level that made it easier for me. Like, I would always look forward to going to her sessions because I knew it was going to be like a weight off my shoulders and ease of the day, and I didn't have to stress as much.
So I've never been to a clinic, so I don't know what they look like. I don't know what's going on. From Mary, who was my other guest I had, who went to a clinic for mental illness, she took me through her day, and it was very intense and it didn't seem very like productive, because they just seemed very negative there. So what was your kind of like day like?
Like my day routine?
Yeah.
So I'd wake up at 4 a.m.
Whoa.
to get vitals taken every day.
Okay.
Vitals and weights taken every day. That would include an EKG and blood work. And then I could go back to sleep, thank goodness. And then I would wake up again, basically maybe probably like 8. We would all go to the dining room and have breakfast. You would get your meal. They would bring you your food. You didn't go through a line to get it. It was brought to you. You would eat what you could. You would have like support there, all 24/7 support. If you didn't eat all your food, you would take a supplement, or you would get like a tube feed. After breakfast, you would do a mindfulness group, which was like to calm your body and your mind, and you could journal about it. Then most of the day, it kind of feels like school a little bit. You're going through different groups. It could be a values group, it could be an art group, it could be a body image group. Groups that are tailored to you to fit your treatment plan, your needs. So those go throughout the day. Somewhere in the middle, you have a snack and lunch. Same thing with like completing meals and stuff like that. After dinner, you do more groups than you do dinner. And then after dinner, you have a check-in with everyone. When I was there were 15 girls who lived there. It was a very small group, which was nice. And we all talked about how we were feeling and how we could support each other. We did highs and lows of the day, because we were living together. So we were all kind of in this together. After that, we had our free time for the day. And we would watch movies together, we would do crafts, we would do puzzles. People really like to crochet. I never got into that, I was awful at it. But yeah, and then you would do like night meds, and you had to be in your bed at 11, and then you'd wake up next day and do it again. Now the weekends were different. They were more relaxed, you had lots more free time, not as many groups. And you would also have like sessions throughout the week with your psychiatrist, your dietitian, your therapist.
So it sounds like it was a great experience overall, and obviously you are doing much better now, right? And from what I heard from Mary is that there was a lot of great things from it too. Was there anything that you look back on that you wish went about differently?
It's kind of hard being in treatment with people who are going through the same thing as you, because certain things they say or do can be super triggering to your recovery and how you want to go about. That's probably the biggest downside I have to going to treatment, is that it's great being with people who are going through the same thing, but it's also really hard being with people who are going through the same thing, because they can trigger you in different ways, talk about numbers, things that can be super hurtful to you.
Right.
Also, sometimes people who are on staff there are kind of just there to honestly just make money. They may not be there to fully support you. Now, there are people who are there, but I would say that some staff members weren't always the nicest on certain shifts. But other than that, it was super helpful, and I definitely wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my treatment.
Right. And then after your treatment, what was the next step? Where'd you go after that?
So after I left,
Yes.
I went to a PHP program, still through Renfrew, and it was online. I got to be home now, and it was 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. I would get on and I would just log on to Zoom. I would see everyone would be on Zoom. We would do the same groups together, just at a little bit of a lower level because it's a step down in care. I would still see my team. I made a lot of friends doing online. Online was probably the best experience for me, because I was able to have the comfort of being at home, but still able to have lots of support online.
That's good. And then you did that, and then you had another step, right?
Yeah. Then I went to an IOP program, which was still the same virtual Renfrew. Instead of going 5 days a week from 8 to 3, I went for 3 days a week from, I think it was 11 to 3.
Okay. And it was like the same concept, just like kind of like leaning off.
Yeah, so instead of doing breakfast, lunch, and snack on Zoom, I just did snack and lunch on Zoom.
Okay. And then after that, what's like, now what do you do?
After that, now I am discharged from my treatment and I'm back at college.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And it's been a real adjustment going from doing intensive care to being in like the real world now.
Right.
I'm not having all that support, but now that I'm at college, I see my dietitian and my therapist weekly, and other than that, I've made lots of great friends in college, and they've been super supportive in my recovery, which has definitely gotten me through a lot. But other than my friends, my family, and my treatment team, I'm doing it.
Yeah. Do you live on campus at college?
I do live on campus. I go to Bloomsburg University, and yeah, I live on campus there. It's really good.
And you say that a lot of the big problem at treatment was that you didn't really have your family. Has that gotten better at college because you're more around your friends too?
Yeah. When I was at school in the fall of 2023, when I first went, I had a terrible time being at school because first off, I was really, really sick and I just missed my parents.
Right.
But once I was able to like start essentially living again and being able to be my true self, I was able to realize that I loved being at school and I loved having times with my friends and making memories, and that's what a main part of college is about.
And is there other people like at college that you're able to talk to about these things, like if you get like these negative thoughts?
I do. I talk to my friends a lot. My 3 main friends I talk to a lot about this. They're super supportive. I also talk to my best friend from treatment. We still talk every single day.
Oh, good.
And we're great supports for each other, who I'm able to reach out to and really dive deep into what's going on, so I can work through that.
And what's something else, like, obviously you have your friends and your family, but for me specifically, sometimes I just need to be alone and just kind of do my own thing. Is there something that you enjoy doing, like, by yourself that really helps you get into a good mindset?
Something, essentially like a good coping skill?
Yeah.
A really good thing I love to do is I love to listen to music in color. That is something that really, like when my thoughts are spinning and I can't seem to focus, having something to listen to and also occupy my hands is really calming for me, and the voices of my eating disorder aren't super loud anymore.
I've noticed that a lot from the people that I talk to is that they like to kind of like stimming.
Mm-hmm.
That they like to have something going on here and then they like to be doing something with their
Mhm.
hands. Like, which I like to do that too.
Yeah.
When I'm anxious, I like to drown everything out
Yeah.
and then do something with my hands,
Mhm.
or else I'll like not know what to do.
Yeah.
Is there like an activity that you do that really helps as well?
I love dancing. I love it so much. It just means so much to me. So whenever I'm having a really hard day and I just need to get out, what's nice about being at school is that there's a dance studio always open.
Right.
I can always go there whenever I want. So it could be like 9 o'clock at night. I can scan into the studio
Mhm.
and I can just turn on music and dance. I love choreographing, and that's really a good outlet for me because I can choreograph like how I'm feeling and really being able to express myself through dance.
And being able to have that outlet is probably a big reason of why you recovered
Mm-hmm.
very well and are still able to keep recovering.
Yeah. Essentially, it is more common for dancers to develop eating disorders. When I was in treatment, my team talked a lot about me possibly not dancing because they thought it would hinder my recovery.
Right.
Because with the mirrors and like comparison, it was such an issue for me. But I was really determined to get back to a spot of being able to go to classes again. And I still struggle in classes with comparison and not liking how I look, but at the end of the day, I know I have to push through because this is something I love so much.
And that's definitely a hard thing. I think most dancers out there, like, I'm a dancer, you're a dancer. Most dancers have gone through that where we're like, oh, I don't look like her. I'm not good enough. I don't have as long of legs as her. And I think it's a good thing to see that you can compare yourself to other people but not bad. Like say, wow, she's really good. I'm gonna try harder to get better. But I think a hard thing is that some dance teachers, most are very supportive, which is great. I came from a very supportive dance studio, but some dance teachers that I've heard of really diminish their students.
Yeah, it can be really harsh, and having those impactful words so young can really build you up and make you think badly about yourself.
Right, which is, I think that's a big thing in the competitive dance world, where I've noticed that a lot, where you have to be there every day, you have to put your body through an immense amount of stress, whereas I really do dance because I enjoy it. I know that's why you do it. I'm not trying to like win this giant trophy, but I think that's what people need to look at more, is finding something that they want to do to enjoy, not do to win.
Yeah, do something for yourself, something that you love, not because someone else wants you to do it or because you want to win something. You have to do it because you internally love it and want it for yourself.
Right. What's some advice that you would give to someone out there right now who was in the same spot as you, who was hesitant and listening to their thoughts and not the professional help?
My biggest thing is that you are worthy of getting help. There's no such thing as being sick enough, not sick enough. Like, you deserve help no matter what. And that there are many like free resources if you don't go to treatment. There's lots of virtual support groups, meal support. There's so many resources out there. So I encourage anyone who's going through something similar to me, or maybe maybe not the exact same eating disorder I'm going through, reach out for help or talk to someone you know, or a friend, a family member, really anyone, because your eating disorder wants to isolate you. That's the goal. The eating disorder wants you to be alone. So telling people about it, that's why it hurts so much, because it wants you alone. So when you tell people about it, that's actually you winning. And I know recovery is possible.
Right.
And for any of you out there who are struggling, I know you can recover.
And I heard you mention that there's multiple eating disorders. When you were at treatment, was there just like all had the same, or was there people with different types?
Yeah, when I was in treatment, there were people with all different types of eating disorders, not just specifically the one I had. There are certain residential treatments who just treat certain ones, but Renfrew treats all of them.
And was that hard seeing, because some eating disorders are polar opposites. Was
Yeah.
that hard seeing people go through one thing when you wanted to just be the opposite?
It is really hard being in treatment, especially when you're trying to recover for yourself, but maybe the person sitting next to you could be like pro ED and it doesn't
Right.
really want to recover. So that's again really having to listen to your internal values and what you want for yourself.
And what's something that you say to yourself when you want to relapse? Like, what's something that you say that really helps you, like a positive affirmation?
Is that I know that I have a future and I want to be a teacher and I want to be a dance teacher, and like I love my friends and my family, and I know that giving into my eating disorder and not recovering is not going to get me the life that I want.
Right. And I know that some people out there might be in the same boat where they don't think that they have a problem. When did you really know that, like, when did it really click for you that there was something that was wrong?
When I remember very clearly, I was sitting in my college dorm, my freshman, like the fall of 2023, and I was getting calls from Renford Treatment Center constantly asking if I was okay, if I needed to check in, if like telling me I need to get my vitals taken. And till that point, I was like, I'm fine. Like, you guys are all over exaggerating. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm good. But at that moment, hearing how concerned people were and how worried people were, that made me realize that this is bigger than I thought it was. And if I keep going down this path, things aren't going to be good.
Right. And I know for me specifically, I have anxiety. So I know that sometimes people say things that are triggering and they don't know any better because there's such a stigma around mental health and mental illnesses that go along with that. And something that really triggers me is people saying like that they're like, oh, I just have terrible anxiety over such and such, which is okay, but like there's better ways to go about saying it, and saying it to someone who they don't even know I have anxiety, because I'm pretty good at covering it up and I've gotten much better, but it's really triggering hearing those things because it just they don't really know. So what's something that like you would say for people to avoid saying, like that really just bothers you?
Is something that really bothers me, and I learned that just really isn't okay, is commenting on other people's bodies. Like, your body is your own and you never know what someone's going through, especially when people are losing or gaining weight. Like, that may not be a choice for them. They could be on a medication they're on, they could be going through something like cancer treatment. Like, we just never know anyone's situation. So it's important to really focus on yourself and not judge others' appearance, because at the end of the day we don't know what's going on. So those comments can be really hurtful to people who are going through something really serious.
Right. One thing I learned that I never thought of, I think this was a few years ago, is that some people think it's like a good idea to say like, oh, you look great, have you lost weight? And like for someone who had that mindset of I need to lose weight, I'm too big, like that could be like, oh, I'm doing good, let me keep going.
Exactly. That was something that was said to me a lot throughout when I was related with my eating disorder, was that you look great. Something that was said to me was that, oh, like most freshmen gain 15, it looks like you lost 20. Like different comments like that really fed my eating disorder and was like, see, you need to keep going. Like, you need to keep going down this path. People think you look great, when in reality I was really unwell.
Right. And I think that's just something that we all have to get used to, is like a few years ago people wouldn't have thought about it. Like the older generations, I know specifically, like one of my friends' grandmas likes to comment on her little sister's weight a lot, which it really bothers me, because why? Like, you don't need to. But I just think that older generations specifically don't understand. Like, they were always used to, like, you have to be this weight, you have to look like this, you have to have the hair like this, and you have to always wear dresses. Whereas, like, now our generation is like, it's okay. Like, you can be yourself. Just as long as you are healthy yourself, then you are okay.
Yeah, for sure. The older generations definitely are like that, and we're super into like the certain like female body
Mhm.
type, or specifically like the BMI, when like now we're getting into days where we're realizing that that may not be
Mhm.
accurate, like that's not
Right.
accurate anymore. And again, like the older generations believe that to be true
Mhm.
because that's at the end of the day what they were taught.
Right. I saw this video one time. I think it was on TikTok,
Mhm.
and it was like throughout the years, like it showed how body, like the perfect body changed,
Mhm.
and like 1,000 years ago, it was you wanted to be bigger because it showed that you were wealthy and you were well fed, and then today it's like you want the perfect hourglass and da da da. So I don't think like thinking that there's a perfect body type, there really isn't one.
Yeah.
Because it changes depending
Exactly.
on what we have and
Mhm.
what we look for. And I think that's a big thing, which I'm really glad to see that now, like more models are like different colors, shapes, sizes,
Mhm.
like different backgrounds, different genders. Like it's all like trying to show that you're not alone. Like there isn't one set body type that everyone has to look like.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, no one's body type is the same. Everyone's bone structure is different. Everyone's muscle mass is different. So for us to try to fit ourselves into a mold that we're not made to be in it doesn't make sense. Like you just need to be like I worded that so weird.
Okay.
At the end of the day, it's just the most important that you're healthy.
Right.
Like it just because you look a certain way doesn't mean that you're unhealthy for your body type.
Mhm.
Like it doesn't.
So I like to end every episode with an inspirational quote from my guest. So what's your inspirational quote?
My inspirational quote is that recovery is not linear. Is that there's always going to be ups and downs in your journey, and that's okay and that's super normal.
And there's really no set point where you're fully recovered because we're all gonna have bad days,
Yeah.
right? So we're gonna just keep doing our best,
Mhm.
and that's
Yeah.
all we can do.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Megan, and that's all we
Yes.
have for this episode, and we'll
Awesome.
see you on the next one. Bye.